All right. I've got a nice little decadent, and I got to figure out if it's a duet or a duo because there's a female involved. But I got my man JP, Jonathan Perez, and the wonderful lady JB, which is Jackie Bohall. Did I see that right?
Yeah, that's
Bohall.
right.
All right, look, I did do. Sometimes I don't know how it's going to come out, but it comes out and it works. So I'm excited to have the two of you today for a few different reasons. Jonathan and I have been connected socially for feels like a few years now, brother. And then we've sort of manifested that thing beyond just social connection to really building sort of a brotherhood, man. I feel like we've got some time and distance between us, but we're still, working on our own things, which you're doing a great job. And when I reached out to you to do an interview to talk about some sales and communication, you're like, hey, I gotta do it, but I also got to bring my partner on because she's just a badass and she's really good and she's helped me and gave me a lot of credit for what it is that I've become. So I like how you approach that. Now I've got the both of them, and it's an honor and a treat. So what I'd like for the two of you to do to open this one up is to sort of share your sales and communication backstory and sort of what you're doing today. And then I'm going to open up a whole can of worms around that. We'll have some fun with it.
Sounds good. No, appreciate it.
You go first.
Ladies first.
I like it. Go ahead, ladies first. Yep.
No, but I will say, I do appreciate you having me on and thinking of me. But at the end of the day, I want to make sure the audience gets as much value as possible. And the root of everything, Jackie has been a very big helper for me and my success as well as her own, but I just wanted to make sure everyone got a lot of value. So appreciate you having us both on.
Yeah. So, like you said, my name's Jackie. I've been in sales now for 12 years. Well, I guess 13 years now. Since I was 18, I started, selling cell phones. So that's how I got started in sales. I moved up really quickly doing that. And then eventually moved into real estate in 2014. So I've been in real estate now on and off for about 7-8 years. And for me, like the thing I love and I've always been good at in sales is just talking to people, just getting to know them, talking to them, finding out the things they like, the things they don't like. And my favorite part of sales for me is solving problems. So many people don't even know that they have a problem that you can solve. And I love finding those problems and fixing it for them, and making their life better or making things easier or whatever it is that I'm trying to do. But most recently now being in real estate and flipping properties, it's turned a lot more to the negotiation side. So I do a lot more negotiating, which has been not challenging, but definitely a learning curve because now I have to find the problem so I can get better deals.
Interesting.
So that's been, but it's still all about building relationships at the end of the day. I'm such a relationship person. The long-term relationships are, always the best, especially when you're in sales and having those referrals and stuff like that. And then it's really neat now, getting to know people and having them call me and saying, I have a deal for you, or what would you get this deal for? Or what would you offer? So it's not only turned into, the negotiation, but also helping other people that are doing what we do, and finding them the best deals.
Yeah. Incredible. I appreciate you sharing that. I'm file cabineting, bunch of what you just said there so that I can ask questions on top of that. And I do want to shift over to my man JP real quick so he can share his sales journey real quick, and then we'll bring them together and we'll start talking about some more of the fun stuff in the middle of all that.
Yeah. So one thing I just want to touch on is her ability to give options to with her negotiating. That's one of the things that I really want to point out. But
yeah, of course, man. Look at that. I like this. That's good edification right there.
It's really good because it gives them the options to come to the best conclusion that yields them the result they want, and everyone's happy. Like at the end of the day, she makes them leave with a smile. Like everyone comes back to Jackie repetitively. They want that relationship, and I almost have to pull her back. Like we got so much to do. We gotta go.
Yeah. I love it. But,
yeah.
it's the magnetism. You got the magnetism.
Exactly. My sales experience, it's a lot more, I guess, condensed, you would say. I only have about 2 years it's going on. Mine really got taken off in my only sales position at Mercedes-Benz. I was doing highline dealership, sales. So for that was a big growth experience just for who I was. I didn't even know that I wanted to do sales that bad and how much potential. I just knew that I wanted to do something different and really take control of my future. And, through our main source, how we connected, that was kind of like my first coach and mentor, you could say. And I did a lot of the courses through that and really kind of refined along with Jackie and scripts and things like that. And, ultimately we became the top sales people for that year, overall grossing over 3 million.
The most the store ever made in the history when we were the 2 top sales people.
Yeah.
Not to brag, but
yeah, no, I love it. Please brag as much as you want to, please. That's what you're here for.
Yeah. One of the things I do want to touch on is a lot of people give out these numbers and they're really not. There's a lot of fake people out there, and that's what's very frustrating to me. They say, "Oh, we did this." I did 131 units that year. I can tell you to the dot like what it was and the breakdown of everything. And a lot of people, when you put them on the spot, they don't know, and it's always made up stuff. And that's why I appreciate you, because you're a real guy. You give out real information. So
yeah, I think just to touch on that a little, I think that's the biggest thing just for me and Jonathan is realizing that there are so many people out there who say and put on a certain facade to the world, but then you get down to the numbers, to what they're actually doing. And it's so crazy how minimal it really is. To think like with what we're doing, we're kind of the top people in our organization. Well, we're getting there. We're not there yet, but it's so interesting how many people say, "Oh, we do this and we do that," and they don't really do any of it, and that's been this year. I think that's been our biggest revelation by far, is like, there's just a bunch of fakes.
Yeah, we're very active. Like, we want to make sure we're consistent. We give the client what they want. We do what we say. We hold ourselves very accountable. We're very hard on each other in a good way. We're constantly making sure we're keeping up on things and reminding each other of what needs to be done for the client,
Yeah. It's fantastic. And I think to your points that there's a lot of truth that, there's a lot of the curtains that are being peeled back so that, you can't hide as much of the proverbial, manipulative part of things, because now it's like there's more access to see things in truth. And while it's kind of a combination of people can hide things because it's really easy to put something out there in a snapshot on social media, for example, and you believe that, but then you really start to understand somebody and meet with them and hear this, and you're like, whoa, okay, that doesn't actually add up. But anyway, and you're right.
I think you're right. Social media has the huge part of it. It's people say, "Oh, I got this. I have this car. I have this house," but then you come to find out they don't have any of that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I watched a good video yesterday where the gentleman who I talk about him all the time. His name's Patrick Bet-David. I'm sure you all have heard of him. Yeah. But he talked about the sort of the process about what the YouTubers are talking about, where it's like, "Oh, it's freestyle, it's lifestyle." He's like, "No, you got to put your head down and work your ass off for a really long period of time and keep grinding, and it doesn't feel good and it's going to hurt." And so he was like, that's the way that real business owners build their business. So what you all are saying is fantastic. Now, I do want to go back to what you said about the two of you were the top performers at Mercedes-Benz. What were you two doing differently outside of, Jackie, what you said about already being good with relationships, Jonathan, with what you were talking about where you were pseudo new into the whole sales thing? How did you bring your collective talents to the table organically and sort of innate ability plus effort beyond what was required versus what the other people were doing there that didn't put them in the same driver's seat as you? Pun intended with driver's seat, baby. Look, I hit that one home. Driver's seat, baby.
I love it. I think we were just talking about this yesterday. And I think the most fundamental thing is humility. Know that you don't know anything. And to that effect, I knew that I didn't know anything. I worked 90 days straight. Now, let me clarify. This includes no weekends off. 90 days straight.
Yeah.
Just to get.
I had to tell him, you need to take a day off, dude. Go home.
Yeah. But see, when you're on fire, you're just on fire, man. Like.
But dude, let me jump in. Where does that come from, though? Like, dude, nobody's wanting to go work 90 days straight. Were you that
I was
wanting.
so upset where I was in life that I knew where I wanted to be and knew this was the only way I could catch up to everyone else.
Yeah, I think for Jonathan, he hit that point of like, this isn't working. What do I need to change to make it work? And he knew in order to be better than everyone, it wasn't going to be because he was the best at sales at the time. It was because he was going to outwork everybody.
I was not good.
Fantastic.
I would talk people.
Like he's one, and now to say he's amazing at sales now, but at that time he had just started and he was just going to go until he loves to be the best. He loves being better than everyone. So he was going to do whatever it took to be the best.
But not even competition with them. I think I'm just trying to reach my potential.
Yeah, he knows what his potential is. It's not that.
Before it used to be them, but now it's just me. I'm like, well, if I could do this, I could do that.
Well, and I think for us, both of us have the mindset of we see other people succeed. And if they can do it, why can't we?
Absolutely.
You know, so that's always been like, I see people like, you know, we're around a lot of, you know, 8 and 9 figure millionaires, and it really puts it into perspective. Like, hey, if that person can do it, I mean, they're great, but like, what is holding me back from doing that?
Okay. So let me jump in that right there. What'd you discover about that in each of your own respects, right? So, hey, you're around them. When you ask yourself that question, what's the level of honesty that you have with yourself? And then say, shoot, I'm not doing A, B, or C like they're doing.
Well, I think the biggest thing like is coaching. For me, John, I know you and Jonathan have that past, you know, of having coaches and stuff like that. I never had that. I never had a reason to have that. Well, I didn't know, you know, so to me, it was like, well, what do I need a coach for? I can motivate myself. I always thought it was more of a motivational thing and not oh, you can actually learn from these people on how to be the most successful. And I think for me, when I decided, okay, I'm going to go all in and pay a lot of money for a coach and take every single thing that they teach me and literally do it to the T. Even if I don't agree, I don't argue, I don't ask questions, I just do it. And I think for a lot of 8, 9 figure and beyond that, most of them have coaches that brought them to that point. You know, there's nobody that's a self-made millionaire at the end of the day. I mean, I'm sure there's some out there, but for the most part, you know, it's these people who put in the work and learn from people who've already put in that work. And I think that's what separated me to get to that next level, because now I just listen to my coach. I don't do anything without asking him anything.
Sure.
So
I like it.
Yeah.
Now with the two of you, appreciate you sharing that. When the two of you were working together, you obviously didn't know each other starting to work. So am I correct in saying that, right? So like,
that's where we met.
Yep. So was there a point where you guys were sort of sharing the deals because you were both doing, or were you one of you servicing the deals and one was out, you know, front facing the customer, and then eventually you were like, wow, you all are doing pretty good. And I'm just curious about that journey, and you know, whatever you feel the most comfortable sharing, please feel free to share it with us. But I want to know how that magic happened and then brought you to sort of like, you know, duo domination of the numbers, right? Like just crushing it.
Yeah. No, I actually was sitting at the front desk. They call it the tower at the dealerships. And I was with my manager. And I remember when Jackie walked in initially for her interview, and I just instantly knew, I guess it's just an innate ability to read people. And I could just tell that she was going to be a badass. And I was like, man, and I almost took it as a threat internally. Yeah. This person's going to dominate. I can already tell. Now, being me, I want to align myself with non-idiots, and she's a non-idiot. Right? You know, I always want to improve, but I also want to challenge myself. So I was like, man, they're going to hire her. She's going to be a badass. And she sold her call like on her first day, a GLS.
My third day.
Yeah.
Let me clarify.
It was my first day.
Her first day being able to sell.
Yeah.
She had to do paperwork the first and second day. So provided the first day on the floor, sold a car. Anyway.
And knew nothing about it either. I was like,
man,
look, these are some nice old people. I'm just going to sell them a car.
Yeah.
They bought my first car was a new car, like too. Yeah. So it was a Mercedes brand 2020, whatever, or 2019.
Yeah. But I actually sat back for a while and watched her work ethic on her own, and I was doing me. And eventually we just had a conversation of merging. And this way, the idea behind it was to not get into the mindset of maybe not having a productive day, but if you align yourself with the partner you can trust, that's huge. One that you can trust, so that when you're not there, someone can help out and keep your numbers still growing because you're splitting deals.
Yeah, I think that was the biggest thing for me too, was like, I knew I could trust Jonathan with my clients, and I couldn't trust anybody else.
Yeah.
Because we weren't like car salespeople, we didn't have
people.
that.
You were people.
Yeah. And oh shoot, sorry.
No, you're still here.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Yeah. I can still see and hear you. Everything's all good.
So yeah. Oh, there we go. Sorry.
Yeah.
So Jonathan, that's why I decided to align myself with him, was because I wanted somebody that I could trust, and that would treat my clients the same way I would treat them, to where I didn't really trust anyone else at the dealership to do that. And then that relationship just grew in that way of, we just worked really well together. We decided maybe
everyone was against, by the way.
Everybody was against this, but we decided in May of 2020 that we were going to split every single deal no matter what.
Wow.
So whether we were working together on the deal, whether we were, it was his day off or my day off, no matter what, we were going to split every single deal, because at the end of the day, if we could both close more deals and then split it, we could both make more money.
Interesting.
Because like if on the higher grossing cars, then we would split, 4,000, which both of us made 2 or whatever, then it kind of worked out. Now, everyone was against that. Nobody wanted us to do it. Both of our managers, if we weren't there, would be like, oh, you don't have to tell Jonathan, you can just do this one in your name. And we're like, no. And same with him. They would tell him the same thing when I was off. And I take more days off because I have kids.
Sure.
So I actually took my days off.
Interesting.
But Jonathan, that was our big thing, was like, how can we get further and be the best? And now after a while, I think both of us relied too much on each other after about 3 or 4 months, to where we weren't even, both of us weren't performing at our highest ability anymore, because we were relying too much on each other. And at that point we decided, okay, well, if we need help, we'll split those deals, but let's do our own thing and see how that goes.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So we've kind of been through the whole roller coaster of that. We've been through a lot of roller coasters.
Yeah. Well, that's life, by the way. I mean, listen, if you're not on the roller coaster, then, I'm probably not experimenting too much, which it sounds like that's exactly what you all did, which was experiment early on, which I would naturally lean towards the question of, what was it in there that you two sort of tested out in the trust process? Because you don't just naturally like meet somebody and then all of a sudden have trust. Were you two sort of engaging in regular dialogue? Did you guys share each other's goals? And then,
from the time we very first met, and now obviously we're in a relationship, in personal relationship, but we didn't start dating we were dating, but we didn't start going out for maybe like a year. Mm-hmm. And so that whole time we have so much in common.
Right.
We're very, very like all of our goals in life, all of the, our, spirituality, all of that is very much the same.
Okay.
So we kind of knew, like, right when we met, that we weren't like a normal friendship kind of thing. We had it was deeper, it wasn't just, oh, you're nice, you're cool, whatever, we had a deeper connection. That's cool. From my perspective. You'll have to ask him that.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, Jonathan, that means the mic's yours, bud.
Yeah, no, I agree completely with what she was saying. Early on, we had a lot of the same values and alignments, and it was kind of weird meeting myself in a way. Even I don't have to talk to her often anymore, because I'm already like, well, if I'm thinking it, she's thought it, so we're good. And it's kind of on that level now. So
yeah, we just always it's very weird, from the day that we met, except for him saying, oh, she's gonna be a badass. He came into my office, he's like, you're gonna be great. And I'm like, who the hell are you? Get out of here. Nobody tells me I'm good, But we just always had that deeper connection. We didn't have to, so the trust really came, ever have to have a conversation. We just knew like we trusted each other, and until we weren't going to trust each other anymore. Right. And neither of us to this point have done anything to break that trust. I think that's what has made our relationship in business and in personal so strong, is that we know that we're going to make the best decision for both of us in everything that we do.
Yeah.
Not, oh, this is going to be better for me, or, oh, this is going to be better for him. We are always very aligned on our decisions.
I took pride in trusting myself to do the right thing too. Like, I was constantly monitoring the books and things. So if she'd be off work, I would notice that perhaps she didn't get credit for a deal, and I'd make sure she was included, on the email, so she can even watch in case everyone drops the ball. At least she knew that she wasn't on, and it happened pretty often, believe it or not.
Especially when we were splitting the stuff, it was like they would intentionally forget to do it.
Yeah, they did it a lot to me, not necessarily to her, but I was always monitoring the books and things. Matter of fact, right before this call, I'm telling her where all the books are now with our current real estate. Right. So it's just being open about it. Sometimes you're not going to like the numbers, but the numbers don't lie. Right.
Sure. Absolutely.
So
I hate the numbers, by the way. He's the numbers guy. I'm the creator.
You're the person. Yeah. You're the people person. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But you need some yin to the yang, as they say. Yeah, for
I'm
sure.
very right brained, emotional, to where he can cut that off and just state
I'm like
facts.
a cyborg sometimes, like,
Yeah. No, listen, I understand both sides, and that's like you said, is really getting to know yourself, no matter where you're at. Jackie, with you taking, an inventory of yourself with where you were with coaching, Jonathan talking about where he was learning to trust himself, equally a part of a much bigger pie of lots of different things that need to happen to build yourself, to build the business, to build the relationship, to keep going and going and going. With the two of you though, and Jonathan, you shared this just a second ago. You said, hey, you kind of had a, launch point into the sales thing to go start working in the dealership because there was that sort of angst and fed up and so forth. Jackie, with you, two things. You mentioned when you started at the dealership, you jumped in, you sold a car, first day of being able to sell, but you had to do a couple paperwork things there. But then I want to walk it back towards, because I really want to unwrap this. I think data, you just mentioned numbers, Jonathan. I think women might have a little bit less of a tendency to get into sales positions. I just what I've seen.
100%.
Right? And I think the data also agrees with that. So when you started way back when, not the dealership, but even AT&T and cell phones, did you have something that led you to that? Or was it inspired?
That's a great question.
Yeah. I told you he was good.
So my dad has been an entrepreneur my whole life. So, I mean, it goes like deep, like back to when I was probably 8 years old. I would have to go to like Chamber of Commerce meetings with him, and he would tell me that, and I wouldn't want to go, of course. And he would tell me, until you shake every single person's hand and tell them your name in this building, we're not leaving. And so from there, and I was in musical theater my whole life too. So what really got me into wanting to be in sales was that it was an act.
Interesting.
It was, I could act like somebody I wasn't. Not that I'm not who I am, but you know what I'm saying? When I was younger, it was like, oh, I don't have to act like I can just go there and not think about any of my stuff that I have going on outside, in my personal life, and just go to work and act like I'm someone else and act like I'm good at selling whatever. And so I think all of that kind of combined, I always had that passion to help people, so to me, it was like, whether it was, really, even when I was younger, doing like Girl Scouts, selling cookies on the corner, or we fed the homeless, doing all that kind of stuff. It all kind of just led back to, I just love helping people, and sales was my avenue to be able to do that. And real estate is even on a bigger scale of being able to help people.
Sure.
And like I always tell Jonathan, like when we sell a house to someone and we see the new owner, like get the keys and how happy they are with like the renovations, that is what pays my bills. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not the money. That's what fills me up. And that's what makes me happy, is seeing how happy other people are and how I can make them happy, which is a little selfish, but you know what I mean? Like, but yeah, just to go back to kind of touch back on your question, is that I've always just had that drive. And I think that's what's made me so successful in sales, is that my dad just started me at such a young age of like, this is what you have to do. He's a sales guy. He had his own businesses. My family would have me in the business working, you know, collecting data, typing, like all that. So I've always had that kind of entrepreneur mindset. And sales, I haven't worked a hourly position in probably 10 years. I've always worked, commission-based jobs only.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Which is not easy. I mean, and I had a kid at 19. So just always pushing myself to be like, okay, I don't want to just make $15 an hour, you know, even if it ends up being $15 an hour commission based, it would always make me feel better just knowing that I could make as much as I wanted.
Sure. Now, with that, thanks for sharing this. It's greatly said. Do you have any suggestions towards other women that maybe have some apprehensions towards sales because of their, I think, biochemistry of like, you know, more emotional, so to say? But
I'll say that the way the world is now, there should be more women salespeople, because people buy off of emotion. Mm-hmm. Women are more emotional. So to think that there aren't that many sales women out there is like crazy to me, because we can sell better than guys, and don't take that offensively, but women are empaths, and they can feel that deeper connection that most men aren't able to touch on.
So with them,
you know, so I think if anybody out there is like hesitant, there's no reason to be, because people turn to me a lot easier than they turn to Jonathan. Now, once you talk to Jonathan and you find out he's a real guy, that's a different conversation. But initially, people are going to open up to me first.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, they're going to feel more comfortable. They're not going to feel like I'm trying to get over on them or something like that. So I think that for women, like you just have to step out of your comfort zone, and try it, you know, and find out how you can help people. It all comes back to that. That's always my thing, is like, how can I help? You know, how can I, and women have that innate ability to be able to do that.
Yeah. I like that. No, you said women can sell better than men. For some reason, it didn't even bother me. So I don't disagree. I was like, yeah, it's good. It's cool. Jonathan, you have taken a, you know, technical approach, lots of mentorship coaching. You took our program, you went through it. What are some of the best practices now that you apply just in general towards sales from your learning curve, in terms of, you know, where you started from with literally no sales experience, compressing time and doing such great things and being top performer in Mercedes-Benz in that time frame, and then now, you know, doing some bigger real estate deals? What's sort of your thought process on that, my brother?
I think I can boil it down to one word, and it's preparation. And I want that to sit with everyone, because you can't sell what you don't know.
So you take it to, you basically will, what's that look like to you? Let me ask a better question there. So walk me through an example of sometimes of in either one of your sales processes for whatever product you were selling, where you drove it that direction.
So let's suppose I'm going to sell a Mercedes, or a car that I know nothing about, but I have an appointment that's going to arrive in 45 minutes. That would include me going out, doing a quick walk around about the vehicle, looking for all the things that could be wrong. I'm always looking for things that could be wrong, so I can bring it to their attention when they get there, because I'm super transparent. Makes no sense in trying to sell something only to have them point that out at the last thing to break the deal. So I was very transparent, like, hey, this is that, and the reason we priced it was because of that. Still interested? Great. Let's keep moving forward. So I would always do my research, and I always basically had it in my mindset. And my managers were very against this, by the way, but my sales numbers didn't lie. I would prepare as if the car was sold already. And those guys couldn't stand that. But I always had all the paperwork printed out down to the pen right there, ready to sign. So for me, preparation was earnestly like the key for me and getting things going. Now, with that being said, don't allow what I'm saying to make you only focus on one thing, because sometimes I'm so focused on one thing. If they don't like the car, they don't like the car. So now I've cornered myself. I have to know a lot about every little car on my lot and options. So that's where she can kind of come in and find another option. Like I said earlier, she's great at having other options. And sometimes that would be an integral part of like, hey, they don't want it, and they go get her, and she'd have another option, you know? So have a sense of what you're trying to sell, but always keep in mind that they just might not like it. You know, it could just be not for them.
And just to point out kind of also what Jonathan was saying is also overcoming the objections before it's an objection. That's sort of what he was saying, is getting so prepared for the appointment, knowing everything that could go wrong and pointing it out before they're able to point it out.
Yeah.
And that's something big in real estate that we've learned as well. In sales is saying this is wrong. Do you still want to do the deal? Or how can we solve those problems to do the deal?
Sure.
And so I think when he says preparedness, that's sort of what he means, is being able to overcome everything.
You have to remove their fear/doubt, because if 1% of that exists, there's 100% of them not buying, right? Like that's the main thing. You have to remove all that. We don't move forward if there's the doubt. You know, we're more fearful of losing out on a good deal if we can present it so they want to move forward. And you have to build that trust, and trust comes from your preparation of the product.
Sure. So I like the example of the cars now. Either one of you or both of you walk us down the path of maybe some sales process and cycle with these real estate deals you're doing. I act like I'm a dummy. I'm curious. I'm genuinely curious right now to know, like, okay, hey, we got to go. Cause this is the nitty gritty stuff where it's like, now I get the goosebumps, because it's like, I got to go knock on doors every day to try to find a $2 million property that looks like it's crap, it's dilapidated, and we're going to take it. We're going to buy it. What's that whole thing look like for the two of you nowadays? Cause even Jonathan, since last time we talked, man, and met downstairs right here, you were on that next, thing for yourself, and then boom, you went in on this. I'm like, good for that dude, man. That's amazing. So now what's it like?
All or nothing when I do
things. Both of us are very all or nothing.
And I think that could help anyone, like either do it or don't. Like, don't just ride the fence.
Well, I think just to hit on that too, I think we were trying to do so many things that we weren't figuring out what we actually wanted to do, because we were trying to do we were starting all these different side businesses, you know, and we
all
were
sales
related, but being like, okay, finally we're like, let's just do real estate and that's it. Mm-hmm. And we had paid for programs, for equipment, for all these things, for all these different businesses, and literally just had to say, well, it's a loss.
Yeah.
Let's just cut it all off and move forward. But to answer your question about real estate, I can talk about that all day. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So okay. So before you jump into all that sales part of the real estate, you all, because I think this is important too. So you two basically said, we're shutting everything else off. How'd you get to real estate? What made you want to decide real estate, and then decide real estate? And then what were the steps after that to get going in that direction?
I'll just say my little part, because I used to build homes for 5 years.
Yep.
This was when I was early on, but I built very young, a very, very, very strong work ethic and a keen eye for perfection, because you're building something for someone to live in. I'll let Jackie take over.
Well, I want to back up just a little bit, because I think the most important part of this story is that we both decided in February of this year that we were going to quit our jobs and move to Las Vegas. With no plan,
Zero.
No jobs, no family here, nothing. We literally we came here to visit, and we decided we're moving to Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And we both went into our general manager's office and said, we went in together and said, yeah, we're quitting and we're moving to Las Vegas to maybe do real estate. Cause that was kind of where our mindset was. Jonathan had just sold his house. So, and I had done all the staging. I didn't have my real estate license in Nevada. I was in the midst of getting it at that time. But I had my California license, but I couldn't sell his house. So we had done all that. So we had just sold his house and we're like, well, should we do real estate? We had a couple other business ideas. We also had gotten a job at an art gallery in Caesar's Palace.
Yeah.
So we had
Very
lots of
lucrative
options.
Yeah.
Very lucrative, by the way.
So to get into real estate, so we decided to move to Las Vegas. We were trying to figure it out. Jonathan and I both got a job on the phone closing deals for like coaching packages and stuff like that, which great for someone, not the job for us. We need to be out there talking to people. Our energy is so high, although it's great for the phone, just not what we wanted to do. We both killed it and did great, but we were like, this sucks for us.
Yeah, that's the quality of life you were looking for.
And I think both of us didn't want to be in the house all day, that kind of thing. So we met some people that he does real estate investing, and they had a 3-day crash real estate thing in Nashville. And you went out there and they literally taught you all the fundamentals of how to flip houses, almost too much detail.
Got it.
We went.
Can I jump in? Like you guys paid to go there? Invested to go. Okay. So this is important. You all invested your money.
We did.
With no jobs, right? So you have savings or credit cards or, obviously monies you made from the home that you sold, Jonathan. Okay. So there you go. So these folks made investments to go get their education. Okay. Continue. Just want to make sure that was clear.
And that's super important because we've invested more than any of our businesses or anything. We've invested more money in ourselves this year than I have ever. I think Jonathan has probably invested this much on himself in the past, but for me, it's like, I can't believe I've spent, we've spent a lot of money on investing in ourselves.
Don't be shy.
I don't know the number.
You want to tell us?
Like 80,000 more, maybe 100,0and this year.
But I mean, like people, if you're listening, take a listen to that, right? Like so, Jonathan, I'll bring this back to you in a little bit about when you told me you weren't an entrepreneur, but you don't like that idea, but you are, because you're doing these things that entrepreneurs do. But $100,000 in around a year time frame, we'll look back on this conversation when you two are making tens of millions of dollars in a couple of years, and you'd be like, remember that one year in 2021? So it's unequivocally the answer. Okay, so let me help some other people real quick. I want to pose something, and I'm not going to give specific numbers because of legalities. I want to make sure, but I've already made that money back, right? Because of the strategies that I've done, the people, you have to work with the right coaches. I don't want people to think just give your money to somebody. You have to trust them. But now this is the thing, and you might as well get off this podcast if you're not looking to grow, because if you found the right person, but you don't think you're either going to do it at all, then there's just come to the idea that you're just not cut out for it. You might as well just be happy watching Netflix. And that's the sting you have to be willing to absorb. But once you find that right coach, you have to be willing to pull the trigger. Because to me, what's crazier is not moving forward and doing it and not going to your fullest potential and thus helping people that you could. To me, that's crazier than anything. And to me, I don't, like she said, I spent 100,000 previously and it didn't work out. To me, that was figuring out what didn't work. I figured out something that does work and it's repeatable, and we're killing it. So I'm going to real quick for people so they can have some peace of mind. Because I think people get, like you just said, that's important. They get scared. The money that they have, they want to sit on it so did you take savings? Did you take credit cards to do this for yourself? Like, what was the decision-making thing there? Because people are like, I have $100,000 in my 401, whatever the number is, wherever it is in the asset. It's like, how did you all approach that? And by the way, no matter how you did it, excuse my French, but it's fucking awesome, because you literally like went in your most uncomfortable place, made the investment regardless of where it came from. Yeah, I'll give you a little tip too. I actually did both. And the reason I do both, because I have a lot of credit lines. I have really established good credit. And this goes way back to knowing I wanted to just be able to utilize it. So I was asking for credit card lines in 2017 when I didn't even need them.
knowing that eventually it'd spawn into something. It's better to have a lot of credit lines so that when you utilize it, let's just say a round number, you have $100,000 of credit line usage, but you only use a third of it, right? So you're still going to be able to, and I would say spread it out amongst all the credit cards so you can use them. Now, this is the caveat. You want to pay them off immediately if you can, because you have the cash, but now you're going to earn points off those cards for free flights. I just bought her this, what is this, a MacBook Pro?
Yeah.
Paid half of it because I used points for the other half, right? So you can always utilize these things that help benefit. So you have to kind of like set yourself up. This is not by chance. I'm not going to make it sound like it was just done overnight and I just said, let's do this. It was all a forethought.
I think it's important. I think understanding the context, man, is invaluable. It's like, look, if you were handed over, $500,000 because, somebody passed away, well, that, unfortunately that's not realistic for everybody. But if you're talking about 6 years ago, I know you said 2017, you started thinking about credit, but you had good credit. So like understanding that makes people, kind of think through it in their own eyes about how they could approach it. So that's why I ask these, more direct questions, because, people get curious. They're like, well, how did he do that? It's like, what was the path? Because I might be sitting on something, or I might, or this or that type of thing. So
I would recommend anyone who's young. I mean, it doesn't matter what age, but the younger, the better. Just take your credit very seriously, because it's helped me get a lot of good rates on things when I go to buy things, and just to get our loans and things like that. So for me to have these high credit lines and very low utilization rates really does help out. And I've been able to get company vehicles because I've established it. And
sure.
Yeah, Jonathan did a lot of preparation before we even knew each other for all of this, without even knowing that this is what we were going to do. So I think that's huge, because
have them start an LLC, just have one.
Yeah. Like he already had an LLC that had been established for 4 years that he had never used.
Yeah.
But we go to get a hard money loan, and they see, oh, this business has already been open for 4 years, regardless if they've done anything. He still files it on his taxes, so it's still active. So we were very lucky. And when we went to get the hard money loans for all of our houses, that they just said, okay, and that's because of all the things. Now to say my credit is not perfect, I've learned a lot from him. And so that's a work in progress, but we thank Jonathan for the good credit.
Sure. Yeah. So that's a great point, by the way, because I have a bankruptcy on my record because I had my own restaurants that shut down. It was a big mess. Jonathan and Jackie, if you don't have good credit in this process, are you having the success that you are right now as fast as you do?
Absolutely. You still can.
Okay.
It's still about, like Jonathan was saying, the coaching, knowing the right people, putting yourself in front of people that have money.
The credit is not you don't have to have it. It just made my life easier for the extra tangibles that I can get for free. Like, who doesn't want $1,500 for free, because you're going to buy a property anyway and buy product. Let's just say you're going to get, you open a Chase Sapphire right now. How do you say it?
Sapphire. He says it like
Sapphire.
It's 2 words.
Yeah, if you open up one right now, you can get up to $1,300 if you spend, like, let's just say $5,000, which is easy. If you're flipping homes, you'll pay that right off.
But but let me jump in. Even if you have bad credit, are you still getting the hard money loan as easy as you did?
Yeah. You can still get the hard money loan. It's just about, now just to go back to your orial question.
I was gonna go back to that. I promise.
Yeah,
I always circle back. I always circle back.
So we have kind of figured out a way to not use any of our own money on these real estate deals. So, but it took a few houses for us to figure it out. It wasn't just like, oh, now we know what to do, we'll just do this.
Yeah.
So we figured out a formula to be able to not use any of our own money, which is very key, because anybody can do what we're doing. You have to have the drive and all of that, like Jonathan was talking about earlier, but anybody who's willing to put in the work can absolutely do what we're doing and not use any of their own money. Or even like wholesaling properties, finding off market properties, selling those, making a quick 20, 30, 40 grand. anyone can do that, but it takes a lot of work. It takes getting on the phones, door knocking, finding deals on the MLS, finding off-market deals, which is what I basically do all day. That's my part of the company. So it's definitely possible for someone, who's doesn't have the best credit, doesn't have an established LLC to still be able to do this. I think just for us, we didn't have to jump through as many hoops in the beginning to where maybe they need more, paperwork or more tax returns or whatever, because we had already established a lot of that. It was easier for us, but it absolutely does not make a difference whether you have it or not.
Got it. Okay. And you said
I think that it's for me, I still go back to establishing it now because it helps ease the pain. Let's say something happens and you don't have credit lines to depend on, they sure are helpful though.
Yeah.
So
I would definitely recommend having a savings or something, doing what we're doing, or having a full-time job and starting it on the side. We just had the money, collected on, from selling his house and all of that to be able to live off of that money until we were profitable.
Got it. So I was going to ask you that because that's important, having that runway, because I know you moved out here and then you were not working. So you were fortunate because of that. And that's just the nature of it. So that worked for you, gave you some
help too.
Yeah.
We were under a lot of pressure.
Now I'll tell you, like when you were earlier, when I was talking about us going to that real estate course for 3 days, when we went to that, we were in such a bad place. Like both of us, not together in our relationship, but both of us were in a really bad headspace because now we had moved here April and this is June. And we're both like, okay, what are we doing? We're running out of money. We have, all this stuff. What are we doing?
Yeah.
And we literally went to this real estate thing saying it's either this works or we come back and we find a job. Those are the two options. So yeah, it was like us going there to like the 3 days and then coming back and having, all of this information and a whole plan. We felt a lot better, but initially I just remember both of us, we didn't even want to be there because we were just like, what are we doing? Like we're so confused on what we're doing with our lives. We got to figure this out. So after we got back from that, like I said, we were doing good and we got our first deal within 2 weeks. Because of the coaching and everything we had learned, and me already having some real estate background helped a lot, obviously. And already we had already kind of thought we wanted to get into real estate. So I had already connected myself previous to this with some people in Las Vegas, who could help me find deals and that kind of stuff. So when we got back, we found our first deal, which sold for 1.25.
Yeah. Which by the way,
1.25 million.
Yeah.
So that was our first flip. So did we get lucky? I don't know. People say that we got lucky, but I think that we just did everything that we were told.
Yeah.
I don't think it was luck because all of it happened for a reason.
Yeah.
And we put in the work. We didn't just get here and
I would come home, just ladies and gentlemen, with my shoes off of my feet at around 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Some nights, like I was putting in the work at this place. Like I didn't do like a lot of the physical labor type things, but I was checking up on them. Like I said, my background in construction and things, and I was advised I should not be doing any of the work because you have to separate yourself. You can't be one of them, right? Like you can't be a laborer. That's not what you're there for. I'm protecting my investors' money. So that's exactly what I did. And I kept that. That was probably one of the fastest, and a lot of people can contest, our investors, our hard money lenders, the buyer, the seller, the real estate agent have never seen someone flip a property of that magnitude in 63 days.
Yeah.
So
that was our first deal.
It opened up the door for trusting. People saw us and were like, damn, we want to work with them. And now just 2 days ago, we got another property with over 15 investors because they believe in us.
Yeah.
So I mean, obviously I have 1,000 questions around this because it's such a great, so you're talking about, Jonathan, you're in there doing the hard labor, breaking this place down. That's non-traditional, meaning that there should be somebody else in that place, but you were you couldn't let it go because you just enjoyed it some way.
I actually didn't do any physical work other than just being there and making sure I was the eyes. There was so many people on this job. It was a rather large property. And being my first one, I had something to prove to myself and everyone else who trusted me. Cause like once she closed the deal, I'm like, damn, this is all me now. Like this is everything on me, which
So
I
that part,
totally am okay with.
okay, so that part right there, she closed the deal. So Jackie, you said you're finding off-market deals earlier, and that is essentially how you start. So you took the blueprint back from the event, you came back
Yep.
home, you're like, okay, crap, we got to find a property, right? Is that the
Yep.
first thing?
Yeah.
So you're hammering the phones. What are you doing to get this property?
So, I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can find deals. The traditional way that a lot of people think to do it is similar to what you're saying. So getting on the phone, calling people, calling for sale by owners, foreclosures, vacant properties, all of that. So yes, you can do all of that, and that's great. And we have done it a little bit, but for us, it's more about getting out and meeting people. So everybody that we meet, we tell them what we do. I also find a lot of my deals on Facebook. That I think I found 2 or 3 deals on Facebook. So you can find deals anywhere. They're everywhere. It's just a matter of why do they need to sell it to you? You know, so that's what I'm figuring out right now is like, okay, so how do I get these people to take my offer that's lower than everybody else's? And isn't, you know, like, yeah, we can close now, the terms are better, so we could close quicker. We have cash. We don't have any contingencies, no inspection, no, nothing like that. Nothing like that. We just go in and look at the property one time,
And we
then
can save their credit if they need to get out of the house.
yeah, we can help them. Like if they are in foreclosure, we can do a subject to, which is where we get the property deeded over to us. So their mortgage is still in their name, but we own the property. So we get them caught up on their payments and keep making payments until we're done renovating the property and sell it. And then they get their payout and we get our payout. So there's a lot of different ways. I mean, I could go on all day, but the main thing for me is I find I have built relationships with people so that will just send me deals. So I have wholesalers that are on the phones calling people. They send me the deal and say, what do you think of this deal? What would you buy it for? So I've kind of gotten to that next level where I don't really need to be out looking. I get enough people contacting me with deals that I don't have to do as much looking. And then the other thing is I find distressed properties on the MLS. So because I am a real estate agent, I can make offers on those. And then the other upside, like the house we just bought a couple of days ago, I still make part of the commission, or I can take out my commission to make the offer better without us losing any money. Because either way that gets paid. So
And you said, Jonathan, the 15 investors. So you buy the property. Do you do a combination of different money injections, different people to buy the property, and then you distribute the earnings equally? Like, is that sort of the structure beyond acquiring the property?
You know, I'm not really sure how on the back end that is broken down. I know our hard money investor, he basically goes and scouts out the people that he wants to bring in. And there was 15 people within that. When I just signed all the documents a few days ago, I saw all their names, you know, somewhere 200,000, 100,000, 200,000. I didn't see any 300,000 yet, but we'll probably get there.
But the hard money, those guys are there to help you buy the property, correct?
Yeah. So the hard money is just like if you go and get a mortgage on the house, but it's a much higher rate and it's only a 6-month loan.
Got it.
And it's interest only. So it's just they give you all the money and then you have to make sure and do your part and get the house done quickly and sold, and then they get their part. So it is much more expensive than a mortgage. But there's not as many, you know, there's no, how much do you make a year? All that. They just want to know that you can do this.
Let me just inject the idea that you have to be willing to, you just can't be greedy. Like a lot of people would hear them like, man, those are high rates. Well, hey, guess what? You couldn't do this without them. And they're going to get you to where you want to be way quicker or you probably could any other way. You probably couldn't with the bad credit go another route. You couldn't, get that much money in that timely fashion. You couldn't be able to do multiple projects. We have what,
four houses right now.
So fast, right? We're getting this money fast. And a lot of people start getting greedy when they start seeing the money, like, oh, let's start cutting people out. And no,
it's all about relationships and loyalty.
Yeah.
So we're loyal to our hard money guy, to our main investor. We aren't out there looking for other ways to make more money from other people. Like, oh, well, we know that guy will only take 30%. So we're going to go with him instead of with our guy. Right. That's a huge thing in any relationships that you have with people with a lot of money, is loyalty. That's what they care about. Yeah, is the loyalty. These are things like I didn't really know until I was around these people. And we've had hard lessons where we've screwed up and we've had to prove ourselves again and again, our loyalty, because we didn't know we were doing something wrong in certain situations, like because we're so new to this and new to being around people with the kind of money that we're around, that we aren't perfect. We've made plenty of mistakes.
And you have to be willing to make the mistakes. And I'll tell you this, making the mistake was probably the best thing that has ever happened to me. Now, like, I've learned so much in the relationships and the conviction that I have for what I do. And I'll tell you this, cutting through people's bullshit now, like my bullshit meter is so much higher. Like when people are talking, let's get to the point, man. Like, what are we doing?
We almost feel like rude sometimes, because we're like, we just don't have time to talk about like whatever, because
let me say this, and I don't want to sound like a jerk when I say that. I mean, a lot of people are thinking what they wish they would do. They don't have the courage to just say, what are we really here for? What are we both trying to achieve? Let's just get to that.
Yep.
I agree. And I love that.
That's what we do now, especially even in the deals. It's like, let's just get straight to the point. How can we get what can we do to get this done?
Yeah.
And if you can't meet our criteria and we can't meet yours and figure it out, then we'll just walk away. And I think that's something, a huge just to go back to sales tactic, is being able to walk away from the deal. Because in real estate, you think, oh, I got a good deal. But if you don't get it for that number, it's not a good deal.
Yeah.
And you have to be willing to walk away from what you think is a good deal to what is actually a good deal.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times they come back, they'll realize after a week or two, this has happened to us on multiple properties. They'll come back and say, oh, well, maybe what you offered us wasn't so bad, so we'll take that. Or can you come up, this much to make it work? And most of the time I say, no, actually now my offer is lower.
Yeah.
I know I was offering 500,000. Now it's 490,000. So. Yeah.
Keep in mind, there's always incidentals to people who've never flipped a home. You've never also had your contractor call you last week and tell you have $30,000 worth of broken air conditions. Broken air conditions are 10. I have 3 that need to be replaced. Right. So there's a lot of things that a seller will not tell you. Maybe all the electrical, like that one home was done with extension cords
in the attic.
That's another $4,000 on top of what I was already, estimated. So all these things, you have to get it at a good price so that when the losses come, and they always do, you're ready for it. You have to be able to absorb that.
Well, and that's a big thing with the coach, just to go back to the coaching, is like having the coach to tell you so that you aren't ever going to lose money. Because even with the $30,000 air conditionings, we're still making a lot of money. It is $30,000 off of our profit, but we're still very profitable. So that's the key to this business, is buying the deal that you buy. You make money on the front end, not when you sell it. So the better deal you can get on the front, the more money you'll make on the back. So that's kind of like, that would probably be my best advice of anybody thinking of getting into what we do and renovating homes and stuff like that, is look, get the deal on the front end. And if you make more on the back end than what you think the estimated value is, great. But don't ever count on that, and don't ever mark it up, $100,000 because you think the market's so hot, I can price it at this. It's just going to sit for longer. We've dealt with that too. So.
Well, it sounds like you've done a wonderful job of, continuing to improve yourselves at the core of everything, which was what you're doing here. Take bold actions in face of what would seem like some challenging situations from life, business, transition, and allow yourself that next tier of living life. And certainly without having had some sales experience, it wouldn't have translated. If it would have translated, it just might have been a different timeline that it would have translated on. So, Jonathan, I know you got to jump out of here, brother, to be somewhere. And for the two of you to be here today, absolutely incredible. Phenomenal sharing, phenomenal ideas, thoughts. And I'm over here like just a student. I'm just like turning my head. I'm looking. I'm thinking, oh, this is cool. Oh, okay, cool. That's nice. All right, very cool. I'm learning. And when I'm learning, I know somebody else is learning, because I consider myself a pretty damn smart guy that doesn't know everything, obviously. But I'm like, oh, that's cool. Okay, cool. All right. So I just want to say thank you to, really, from the bottom of my heart. Fantastic. I'm so proud of you for Jonathan. Obviously, I know you better than Jackie, but proud of you, my man, for championing this whole thing, and two of you coming together and continuing to get stronger together. And I am just excited to see what you two continue to build. And obviously, it's right here in our backyard. So, and I look around and stuff like, this is Vegas. So the next dinner's on you, man.
Yeah. I just want to add one more thing before we go, is like the biggest thing that I've learned this year is to stop making excuses. And we didn't get to touch on that, but just never, like, I could name 20 excuses that I could make right now as to why I can't do what I need to do after this or whatever. And the biggest thing is just stop making excuses and just do. And like, I have a 4 and a 6-year-old. I have everything in my way. I don't have any family to help me here. I never use any of that as an excuse. I never even mention it, because at the end of the day, nobody cares about your excuses. They want results.
Ooh, that's a mic drop, John. I don't even know if you can follow up with that, man. You might as well just get off now.
But I think I stole that from Jonathan. But
that's good.
No, but I just think that in this business, and in any business that you do, especially sales, people don't care about your excuses. They just want what they want. And so that's all I have to say. But thank you so much for having us. This was great. Anytime you want to talk, we can talk.
Yeah. Of course. Happy to circle back again. Maybe we'll do a progress report, 6 months, 12 months, talk about how many deals you got done there, and add some more light to So good job, you two. So proud of you. That's it. I would say, hey, and I don't know if you all are doing this, but do you have a place? Are you pointing people anywhere? Do you want people to follow you, look you up somewhere?
So you can follow us on Instagram. My Instagram is Jackie_Bohall. That's it. Pretty basic. And I don't know what yours is.
Yeah, I'm not really. That's how so if you go to mine, actually.
But you can follow on there. We do have all of our properties. We have before and afters. And if anybody has any questions about real estate, you can always message me. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. And it doesn't matter where in the United States you are. It's universal for everywhere. So not just Las Vegas. I can help anyone anywhere. So
yeah. And the reason I show a lot of the properties is just because you can actually see, we're not just talking about it, you can literally see the timeline. And it's kind of exciting to see like the before and afters and things like that. But Jackie has all that on her page. So
I love it. And obviously, Jonathan, you and I met right down here below where I live many months ago, and we had a wonderful conversation. I am telling everybody out there, I highly advise you to, if you can, communicate with Jonathan and Jackie alike, because obviously she's very talented and educated and certainly experienced in multiple domains. So if you were, something stuck out to you here, whether it was real estate or sales or communication or just life mindset, reach out, and they've got some sound advice. So it's a good place to be. So you two of you rock on, have a great rest of your day. You guys are awesome, and we will have to do the progress report down the road. You have a great day. Thank you too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.